They won't even know why they're thinking about you, but they will. Constantly. You'll live in the pauses between their sentences, in the empty spaces of their routine. You'll haunt their thoughts without lifting a finger. Their mind infected. Their choices bent. Their emotions yours to sculpt. Machiavelli didn't use the word obsession, but that's exactly what he was describing. Men are driven by two forces, he wrote, love and fear. But there's something far more potent than either of those obsession. Because obsession isn't just attraction. It's control. It's when someone doesn't just like you, they rearrange their life around you. They change how they speak, how they dress, how they carry themselves. All because of you. And the best part, you can engineer this. How? By using the same methods Machiavelli used to influence kings, generals, and entire empires. It starts with a simple truth. Obsession doesn't come from what you give, it comes from what you withhold. If you want someone to obsess over you, don't flood them with affection. Don't be too available. That only creates comfort. And comfort, it kills curiosity. It breeds complacency. You want the opposite. You want their brain chasing something it can't catch. So you starve them, but not of affection, of certainty. That's the fuel. Obsession blooms in uncertainty, in the mental static that says, do they like me or not? When they can't tell if you admire them or merely tolerate them. When they're unsure if your last glance was passion or pure calculation, they spiral. Because the human brain hates unsolved puzzles. You become the puzzle. You let silence linger just a beat longer than it should. You answer a message, but you wait. You're warm, but then cold. You lean in, then pull back. You never say what you're really thinking. Never give them the closure they crave. That emotional starvation triggers something deeper than attraction. It creates addiction. Machiavelli never gave people clarity, never revealed his full loyalty, never offered the comfort they wanted. Because the moment someone feels certain, the game ends. But as long as they don't know where they stand with you, the chase continues. Once you've planted that seed, just a flicker of interest wrapped in mystery, you mirror them, but only partially. You show them fragments of themselves, just enough to make them feel seen. They want ambition. You show them vision, but only a glimpse. They want vulnerability. You give them a flicker, then cover it with a dry joke. They crave intensity. You give them a moment of fire, then go quiet. This is what Machiavelli called strategic reflection. You reflect just enough of their desires to spark hope, but never enough to let them feel secure. Never enough to make them feel they've figured you out. Because here's the truth. The mind doesn't obsess over what it understands. It obsesses over what it almost understands. And now that you've got their attention, it's time to train their brain. This is where the real power begins. It's called intermittent reinforcement. You give them warmth, then nothing. Praise, then criticism. You pull them close, then vanish. But not on a schedule. Never predictably. You leave them wondering. They keep checking their phone. They reread your last message. They're not just waiting, they're hoping. And hope is more addictive than love. Because love is steady. Hope is a gamble. It works the same way a slot machine does. The gambler never knows when the reward is coming, but every now and then the machine dings and spits out coins. Just enough to keep pulling the lever. That's you. You're the slot machine. You're not giving love. You're offering possibility. And when that possibility becomes the only relief from someone's inner pain, obsession takes root. Because most people walk through life with a silent wound, abandonment, rejection, insecurity. You didn't create that wound, but you see it. You become the only one who seems to understand it. You don't try to fix it, you just witness it, and that's more powerful than any solution. You don't offer comfort, you offer recognition. And once someone feels seen in a way no one else has seen them, they attach. Not because you're kind, but because you're a mirror. And not just any mirror, a flattering one. One that reveals the version of themselves they always hoped was real. Now here's the key, you don't ask them to be obsessed. You provoke it. Your absence speaks louder than your presence. Your indifference sharpens their desire. Your unpredictability fuels their imagination. Machiavelli never begged for loyalty. He never had to. He made himself so elusive, so fascinating, that people gave it to him freely. He never wanted to be known. He wanted to be imagined. And once you understand this, you'll stop trying to be understood. You'll live in the tension between what's shown and what's hidden, because predictability kills obsession, but contradiction is obsession's favorite food. Today you're intense, tomorrow distant. Today you praise them, tomorrow you tease. They'll spend hours trying to decode which version of you is real. They'll question themselves. Did I mess up? Are they pulling away? Was that smile genuine or strategic? You don't owe them answers. You owe them a maze. And they'll wander it willingly, even gratefully, so long as you never hand them a map. Want to control someone without even touching them? Master the art of timing. Machiavelli understood it wasn't just what you said or how you appeared, it was when. You leave a conversation unfinished right at its emotional peak. You send a message that cuts straight to their core, and then disappear for 8 hours. You exit a room while the energy is still rising, leaving behind an echo of your presence. That echo, it haunts them. It creates a void that their mind rushes to fill. What were they thinking? Did I say too much? Are they testing me? Their thoughts begin to revolve around you, not because of anything you said, but because of what you didn't. Because you're not just in their life, you've now invaded their mental real estate. Mirroring comes next, but let's get this straight. Most people do it wrong. They copy someone's body language, mimic phrases, try to sync up awkwardly like a bad improv partner. That's not mirroring. That's impersonation. True mirroring, it's psychological. You reflect their inner world, subtly, artistically, and just slightly off. You say things they've always felt but never found the words for. You notice parts of them that even they try to hide. You reflect them back to themselves, not with accuracy, but with just enough distortion to keep them engaged. Because now they don't just see you, they see a mystery. A mirror that's almost right. And the mind hates an unfinished picture. So they keep talking, they keep engaging, they try to correct the image you're reflecting. But you're not wrong, you're just not entirely right. That almost is your power. That almost keeps them hooked. Remember, nothing common is desired. Nothing easy is respected. You want obsession, make yourself rare. Machiavelli knew it. Kings bowed to scarcity. People worship what they cannot easily access. You must become scarce in every way. Your time never freely available. Your thoughts never fully shared. Your approval never casually given. Your attention always unpredictable. Make them earn every interaction, every glance, every message, every smile. Because obsession doesn't come from access, it comes from earned proximity. They won't fall in love with you. They'll fall in love with the idea of being chosen by you. And once they feel chosen, they'll do anything not to be unchosen. You don't build obsession through affection. You build it through removal. Right when they start feeling close, you pull back. Right when they think they've figured you out, you vanish. Right when they feel secure, you shake the ground beneath them. Not to be cruel, but to be unforgettable. Small emotional wounds, when delivered with precision, create long-lasting effects. You're not aiming to hurt. You're aiming to embed. Your withdrawal should never be hostile. It should be confusing. They shouldn't hate you. They should miss you. Reanalyze every moment. Rethink every sentence. You want them to spiral not because you're gone, but because they don't understand why. This is where obsession deepens, because now it's no longer about you. It's about them and how they feel about themselves in your absence. That's a deeper hook than any compliment. It's the hook of identity. Every powerful figure in history had a signature, a symbol, a scent, a phrase, a gesture. These small sensory anchors planted themselves in people's subconscious. You must do the same. Maybe it's a phrase only you use, a specific tone of voice when you're being serious, a gesture, a hand through your hair, a pause before you speak. It becomes your fingerprint in their mind. Suddenly, they're seeing you in other people's words. They're hearing your voice in silence. They're feeling you in their dreams, in their daydreams, in their distractions. You've stopped being a person. You've become a presence. This is how you haunt someone while staying perfectly still. And it doesn't stop there. To make someone truly obsessed, you must allow them to see themselves in you and you in them. You're not just someone they're interested in. You're part of how they now understand themselves. This is what Machiavelli did. He didn't simply give advice, he embedded himself in the decisions of those he influenced. He became the voice they heard in moments of power, fear, hesitation. You become the lens through which they see their own life. Because obsession isn't about the other person. It's about how we feel when we're near them. So make them feel more powerful when they're around you. Make them feel more understood, more seen, more desired. You're not just offering affection. You're offering transformation. You're showing them a version of themselves that only exists when they're with you. So what happens when they step away from you? They feel less. They'll come back. They always do. Because they weren't obsessed with you. They were obsessed with who they became in your presence. Now comes the twist. Once they're already invested, once they've started to seek your attention, you give them a title. You assign them an identity. You're the only one who really gets me. I don't usually open up to people, but with you, it's different. Now they don't just like you, they feel chosen. And to lose you now would be to lose that identity. That's obsession. You're no longer just a person. You're a mirror for their highest self. And people, they protect mirrors like they protect ego. Machiavelli once said that men must be either caressed or annihilated. There's no in-between. And when it comes to emotional loyalty, it works the same way. You want someone to truly attach to you, you don't demand their secrets, you earn them. And once you do, you guard them like treasure. You don't ask. Tell me about your past. You just listen, deeply, patiently, without judgment, without interruption, with so much quiet space that eventually they fill it. They confess what they swore they'd never say. They tell you about the failure they've buried, the shame they've masked with confidence, the childhood wound they thought they outgrew. And your response? Nothing dramatic. No shock, no pity. You just witness. And that alone that changes everything. You become their vault, their silence partner, the one person in the world who knows the full story and doesn't flinch. But here's where the shift happens. That's safety. It turns to attachment. That attachment, when handled properly, becomes obsession. Because now you're not just someone they like. You're the person who knows them and still stays. But now it's time to go deeper. You're not only shaping who they see you as, you're rewriting who they remember you to be. This is memory manipulation. It sounds dark, but it's not always malicious, it's human. The mind is malleable, neuroplastic. It rewires based on suggestion and emotion. So you plant seeds. Remember the look you gave me that night? Something changed. When we passed by that place, I could tell something shifted in you. Maybe it didn't happen that way, but now they believe it did. You're not lying. You're reframing. You're adding meaning to moments they didn't realize were significant. And now those memories aren't just memories. They're milestones, emotional anchors, turning points in their story, and you're in every one. You don't just live in their present, you now live in their past. And because of that, you shape their future. But obsession has a natural enemy: closure. Closure is the story ending. And the moment a story ends, so does the desire to keep turning the page. So you suspend the ending. You start building a shared mythology. We should go to Italy together. One day I want to dance with you in the rain. Imagine us in a cabin far from everything. But you never quite finish the sentence. You paint the picture, then set the brush down. It becomes what Machiavelli would call a political promise. It's not a commitment, it's hope. A carefully designed maybe. And that maybe becomes a hook in their mind. What if we actually go? What if they were the one and I lost it? What if I'm supposed to hold on just a little longer? Hope, once weaponized, becomes obsession's oxygen. Now you seal it with one final ingredient. Fear. Not screaming panic, not threats, but a soft fear, a whisper of unease, a sense that you might vanish. Because once someone starts to fear your absence more than they value your presence, they'll seduce themselves. You're no longer chasing them, they're chasing safety. Machiavelli never threatened his enemies directly. He just made sure that everyone feared being outside his circle. You do the same. They start thinking, did I do something wrong? Are they slipping away from me? You withdraw subtly, not in anger, but in calm uncertainty. They say, is something wrong? You reply, no, I've just been in my head. You leave them guessing. That guesswork creates panic. They start chasing your validation, not your attention. Because here's the shift: you've made them believe they are the unstable one, that they have to earn your closeness, that keeping you is an ongoing test. And people will do anything not to fail a test they believe they're already losing. Now give them something sacred, but just a taste. A moment of complete honesty, a rare compliment, A soft touch, a lingering look, a vulnerable story. They feel trusted, special, like they're getting access to something no one else has. But you don't pour the wine. You offer a sip, a toast, then pull back. Because obsession isn't built with abundance. It's built with longing. Every human has an insecurity they're running from. Your job is not to erase it. Your job is to become the one person who makes it feel smaller, but only sometimes. Make them feel whole, powerful, complete when they're with you, and then fade. Now they equate you with relief. You're the buffer between them and the insecurity they fear. Without you, it comes back, louder. They start chasing relief, not love. They're not drawn to your personality. They're addicted to who they are when you're near. And that's emotional dependence at its core. You've turned yourself into their antidote. Now even the thought of you leaving becomes unbearable. Not because you're cruel, but because you've become necessary. That's not love. That's psychological gravity. Rejection leaves a scar, but uncertainty leaves a loop. Most people don't fear being left. They fear being left without closure. If they know why you walked away, they can build a story, make peace, move on. But if they think you left because of something they did, something they missed, they'll spend the rest of their emotional energy trying to fix it. That's the hook. That's how obsession becomes self-inflicted. You never say, "I'm leaving." Instead, you drop thoughts like, "I just hope you don't become like everyone else." People lose me not because I leave, but because they forget how rare I am. These aren't threats. They're prophecies, not warnings, but riddles. Now you're not pushing them away. You're making them terrified of pushing you away. Suddenly, every conversation feels like a test. Every word they say is replayed in their head a dozen times. They're not just drawn to you, they're protecting you. Because now losing you doesn't feel like losing a person. It feels like losing a privilege. You've elevated your presence to a reward, not a guarantee. And when you do offer warmth, it has weight. You pour attention like it's a rare wine. One sip here, a toast there, never the whole bottle. They crave more. They worry about the day the bottle runs dry. Everyone has a version of themselves they're secretly trying to escape. Somewhere inside, they feel insecure, small, unseen. You don't erase that part, you become the antidote. But not consistently. Sometimes you make them feel whole. You unlock a stronger, more confident version of themselves. And then you disappear. And when you disappear, that insecure version returns. The version they hate. The version you made them forget. So now they don't just miss you, they miss who they are when they're with you. That's the real obsession. They start to see you as the only thing keeping their inner fears from rising again. They begin to believe that without you, they're vulnerable. Incomplete. It's fear disguised as love, addiction disguised as loyalty. And the most powerful part, they won't even realize it's happening. They'll just know that when you're near, everything feels better. And when you're gone, everything feels off. Now take that emotional dependency and reinforce it with identity. You start shaping how they see themselves. You say things like, "You're better than this. That's not how I see you." Subtle corrections. You don't tell them who to be, you reflect back the version of them that you admire. And when you pull away just enough to make them wonder if they've lost that image in your eyes, they panic. Not because they miss you, but because they miss how you saw them. You've become their moral compass, their emotional North Star, their silent judge. They're not chasing affection anymore. They're chasing your approval. And once you control how someone feels about themselves, you control everything. Now you can go silent. And they'll text 3 times, maybe 4. They'll scroll through old messages, reading between lines that never meant anything. Was that a goodbye? Did I miss something? You don't respond. Because silence is louder than explanation. They're not even trying to win you back. They're trying to win back their place in your eyes. That's the trap Machiavelli set again and again. He stayed calm, spoke carefully, let mystery replace explanation. And in doing so, he didn't just influence people, he haunted them. You must do the same. Because obsession isn't loud. It's quiet, slow, creeping. It builds in the silences, in the gaps, in the unanswered questions. So you create friction. You don't disappear entirely. You leave breadcrumbs. You watch their story but never reply. You like a comment, but don't send a message. You send a vague text, thinking about that moment, and then vanish. Now their imagination is doing all the work. They're walking through the emotional desert you created, hoping for a drop of attention. You've become the only source of emotional hydration. And then finally you return, but not the same. colder, sharper, more emotionally distant. You speak softer, smile less. They feel the shift. You're not cruel, but you're different, and they feel it. They try to get back what they had, but you don't let them. You give just enough warmth to remind them it was real once, but they can sense it. Something changed. You were close. Now you're unreachable. Now they're not chasing you. They're chasing who you used to be. And no one ever stops chasing a ghost they once felt safe with. They'll try everything, say all the right words, show all the right behaviors, but you never fully return, because the obsession is no longer about love, it's about relief. They're trying to undo a feeling they can't explain, to get back to the version of themselves they only accessed through you. That's how deep it runs, because you didn't just leave a person-shaped hole in their life. You left a self-shaped one. This is where the myth begins. You stop being someone they dated, talked to, or almost loved, and start becoming a legend in their personal story. Not because of what you did, but because of what you represented. To reach this level, you must begin shaping your mystique, not overtly, not by bragging, but with whispers, fragments, and poetry. Speak about your past in ambiguous ways. Let others describe you in extremes. He's different. She's unreadable. You never really know what they're thinking. Never defend your image. Let them argue over it. Because the moment someone starts defending you to others, they've stopped seeing you as a person. You've become their belief. And beliefs last longer than memories. You're no longer a moment in time. You're a story they keep telling. And stories, they live forever. Now once you've become the story, use it. Machiavelli didn't want to be liked. He wanted to be obeyed. Obsession, if sculpted properly, becomes the purest form of control. Why? Because once someone's identity is tied to you, they don't just want you, they need to prove themselves to you. You don't have to ask for loyalty, you just reward it. Not based on affection, but based on alignment. When they defend you, you give warmth. When they echo your values, you open up. When they obey your unspoken rules, you show appreciation. Not with words, but with access. They begin to notice, the more I act in a way that pleases them, the more I feel whole. That's behavioral loyalty. And now, raise the bar. With silence, with stillness, with unshakable standards. Let your energy set the rules. Emotional self-control, elegance under pressure, loyalty without prompting. You don't explain these values, you embody them. They'll pick up on it, they'll adjust. Because they don't want to lose their place in your world. You've now created invisible laws, not through punishment, but through selective warmth. Surface-level obsession fades, but obsession rooted in ideology that lasts a lifetime. So drop your beliefs casually, almost carelessly. Loyalty has to be earned. Most people talk too much to be trusted. Silence reveals more than words ever will. These aren't rules, they're truths, sharp ones, unapologetic ones. And the people who resonate with those truths, they'll reshape themselves to align with you. Not out of fear, but out of admiration. Now they're no longer just obsessed with you, they're obsessed with being like you. You've become the answer to a question they didn't know how to ask. Because people walk around with voids, they can't articulate a craving to be seen, a longing to feel powerful, a desire to feel different. You don't fill those voids directly. You just suggest that only you understand them. And once someone believes that, leaving you feels like spiritual death. They'll try, they might walk away, but everything after you will feel too shallow, too basic, because you weren't just a person. You were a doorway to a better version of themselves, and you closed it. Machiavelli never told people what to do. He made them believe it was their idea. You do the same. You plant ideas like seeds and water them with praise. You always think 3 steps ahead. You see through things most people miss. Now they believe aligning with you is intelligence. Pleasing you is strength. And they think it was their idea all along. That's the art of control without resistance. Now you're no longer just you. You're what you represent. Not a person with flaws, but a myth with weight. And myths, they move people. Machiavelli knew that fear and awe work best when the source is slightly inhuman. So remain distant. Speak carefully. Let mystery replace explanation. You're no longer in their life. You're above it, hovering, influencing from the shadows. You've become the standard, the unreachable measure they compare everyone else to. They'll never say it, but they'll feel it. When someone new doesn't make them think as hard, doesn't make them feel as seen, doesn't make them question themselves the same way, they'll realize they're not searching for someone else. They're searching for you, and they'll never find it again. Because you weren't a chapter, you were the entire plot twist. So leave them with silence, with fragments, with echoes. Let the mystery remain. Because once someone believes you could have been everything, they'll never stop chasing the possibility. That's the game Machiavelli mastered. And now so have you. End of script. Have a beautiful day.